Welcome, everybody. So today we're going to start with the demo because a couple of devotees, including me, might have to leave in an hour. So we're going to go ahead and start today's with the demo, and then I'll explain expansion brain spotting. So, um, so we focused last time on addiction and also the role of shame. So my intention today is to do the shame slayer double spotting. And if time allows, also do the setup that connects cravings to consequences. And uh, and Nimai is second generation devotee, right? Second generation. And so, Nimai, what would you say is bothering you the most? What do you want to focus on?
Um, what bothered me the most, what I like to focus on, um, it's the high stress um, during parts of the day and definitely in the evenings. That's been going on for a long time, and the overwhelmed or like fears that come with that, yeah, and then the desire to like self medicate, um, in whatever form that is to escape that, right?
Mm,
Sure. Can,
yeah.
can yeah.
And as you talk about it, where do you feel it? Well, first, what is the sort of negative thought that comes up for you around this?
Negative thought. Um, the negative thought. It's well, it's not what I want. It's contrary to all the other work during the day and all the work through the years, you know. Um, and and then yeah, shame comes with it. Still, even though I've done a lot of work on that, we did our therapy together. We did a lot of focus on the shame part, and that was really transformational. Um,
With the internal family systems. This is your
internal,
first time doing expansion brain spotting. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and we've
Yeah, and
done.
that was and it's been years. I just want to mention it's been more than the 2 year threshold. So yeah, it's been a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah, night and day. Mostly I can turn off the, or I can do my kind of internal conversation and turn off that shame, or like just listen and let it be heard, and then just kind of like go back to myself, yeah, um, and not be overwhelmed by it. It is still kind of ingrained from from childhood, to be kind of perfect. And so, anyways, yeah. So that, but the negative thought is um, that it's not, that it's stressful, and it's kind of overwhelming at sometimes. Yeah.
Mm. So it's stressful and overwhelming. And as you feel into that, where do you feel it most strongly in your body?
They usually the chest and the neck area.
Mm. Is that where you're feeling it now?
Yeah.
And you have your bilateral sound on?
Yeah, and I have bilateral playing on my headset, which is
Uh,
which was also a huge key for me. Yeah, definitely. Still is.
uh, and how activated or disturbing does it feel to you now on a scale of 0 to 10?
Probably a 7.
And when you look over here, we're going to find an activated spot. And with this expansion brain spotting, you'll have two spots. You'll have the activated spot and a resource spot. And there's no supposed to's with this. You let whatever happens happen. Um, with brain spotting, you can process silently or out loud. And I know you're planning to do more out loud because of the demo.
Right.
Um, and and you get to decide as you pendulate between the activated spot and the resource spot, how, according to your instinct, how long you stay at each spot. So with the activated spot, does it feel more activated over here, less, or the same?
Um, but less,
And what about the middle
about the same.
and over here?
Um, Less,
So most activated kind of in the middle.
most activated in the middle. Yeah.
And does it feel more activated if it's up high, even like off your screen?
That's off the screen. No, less.
So we'll come down.
Like right at the top of the screen. I'll tell you when it's at. Right about there. Yeah.
Right there. And
Yes.
is it more activated just a little bit to one side or the other, or
To the
right in the
left.
middle?
So yeah. To the
To
to
your left?
your right. Yeah.
Right there?
A little bit further. Yeah. Right about there. Like
Right there. So go ahead and bookmark that so it's easy for us to find it, and I will also. And so now we'll move to the, you know, highest possibility for resolving this issue.
okay.
What would you say is the highest possibility for resolving this issue?
That's possible.
And I
Um,
could be it could be a deity, could be a spiritual
yeah.
teacher.
All through. Like yesterday was Low Mention as Parents Day, so that was a day for me to kind of connect and um yeah, that whenever that shelter is there, whenever that connection is there specifically, yeah, it's like the fear goes away. There's no issues.
Mm.
Um, so not being overwhelmed, yeah, is the highest possibility of not being in fear and feeling connected, yeah, not feeling
So
alone.
do you want to go with Lord Nityananda, and how his mercy helps you not feel overwhelmed and feel
Yeah,
more connected?
that's what I was thinking. Yeah,
So where do you feel Lord Nityananda's mercy the most? Is it over here?
that looks about right.
I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and check. You feel his mercy more here in the middle?
No, definitely more on the by the
Not so much over here.
not so much over there.
I'm just checking. And
Yeah,
so is it more if it's higher? And it can be off the screen. You can find a gaze spot in the room where you are.
no,
Uh,
it's better closer to the like right about there.
right there.
That's good.
And is it more either there or further out?
Um, like there is good.
Right here.
That's good.
Is that the spot where you feel Lord Nityananda's mercy?
I think so. Yeah.
Mm. So just go ahead and feel into that. What Lord Nityananda's mercy, and he is the ultimate shame slayer. We know from Jagai and Madhai, and we know that a devotee who's not terrorizing villages and doing all that they did, actually any devotee fully deserves Lord Nityananda's mercy.
Okay.
Where do you feel his mercy strongest in your body as you gaze at this spot?
Where do I feel his mercy in
The
myself?
strongest, the strongest in your body. Yeah.
Um, that same area. Yeah, the chest and neck and head area.
Mm. And when you're gazing at an expansion resource spot, processing can also happen. It can bring up stuff for sure. And did you want to start with this spot or did you want to start with the activated spot? And as I said, you get to decide when we go from spot to spot according to your instinct, your intuition.
Okay.
Where would you like to start?
Um, I wouldn't mind on the activated spot. That would make sense.
Okay, right
Okay.
there,
Yeah, that's good.
right there.
That's good. So at this point, I don't think about Lord Nityananda. Oh, I forget the at the activated spot, or just let it.
Let whatever happens happen.
Okay. Yeah, I just feel more compassion, more understanding, like basically the lack of judgment at that point. The lack of um, kind of condemnation or getting there. Yeah,
Mm.
just more everything is okay type of thing.
So it sounds like already your activated spot is less activated.
It is. Yeah.
That was quick.
Yeah. Yeah. We've done some work over the years, so yeah. And yeah, the thoughts process, the memories process for sure. Thinking about others and also compassion for them, understanding no disconnect from my end, which is nice. Feeling connected to people.
Mm.
We're a big family.
Mm.
It's important to me. So then I can go to the other spot. What's it called?
Um, you can call it the Nityananda spot if you want. Whatever you want to call it is fine.
That works. That's a good one.
Is this it? Is this it?
Yeah, that's good. yeah, I mean, for me, that's the watering the roots, like in a practical application, just thinking about Nityananda kind of things, or Shri Chaitanya, Shri Nityananda are the ones that kind of bring it all together.
Mm.
I have plenty of work to do there still, but definitely feel connected, which is nice. And then connected to everybody else as a result. Still some shame, still some work to do. Feel, but far less.
At this spot, when you mentioned your shame to Lord Nityananda, what does he say?
I don't have that clarity, but I get the feeling that things are okay. Yeah. Just like love and light, basically, like actual light, like energy,
Mhm.
sunlight, moonlight, whatever.
Mm.
Yeah, and the question is how to keep it through the real challenging times. That's how to do more to keep it. And for me, it's important to not not lose the compassion for others or get into any kind of a judgment condemnation or something because I've already experienced that of like self and others.
Mm.
I mean, from others, of others too, and also self. So the screen just went out.
Mm.
We're seeing you and we're seeing Chandrika. Are you not seeing Chandrika?
Not at that moment. And I see your picture now. And I,
I
I was
I
trying
think
to,
this has something to do with your tablet, Nimai.
that's kind of what I was thinking too. I was trying to think how to pin, but since I'm on the Kindle, I don't know how to do it.
Well, you're already pinned and Chandrika's already pinned. I mean, what I could remove the pin and redo it and see if that helps. You want me to
We
do
can
that?
we can continue with a gaze spot.
Okay.
Um,
Now I see
so,
you. Okay.
so go ahead and if I ever pop off, just gaze where the spot is. So go ahead and
Okay.
find the spot kind of maybe on your tablet or in the room where you are so that if, and this is, uh, when you were talking about like having the resource of Lord Nityananda's unconditional mercy, This is a spot that you can remember and bookmark and just kind of look, up and to your left to where the spot would be and just find this Lord Nityananda's mercy spot. So this is a resource you have if ever, the image of this particular wand is not available to you at any moment.
Okay, cool.
What are you feeling in your body?
Um, kind of light, release or whatever. Just feeling easier,
Mm.
more prepared. Feel like there's more stuff to go into, but I don't think I'm ready for it yet, or I don't think it's needed today. Yeah.
Totally up to you.
Feeling grateful. Feeling useful.
What are you noticing happening with Lord Nityananda's mercy and any sense of shame?
He's working on it.
Mm. Sweet, beautiful.
There's a joyful energy for sure. Yeah.
Mm.
And wanting to share that with others, the need for it for me.
Mm.
Lord Chaitanya comes into the picture. Radha Krishna. Akanti Hari.
Just last night at the program, they were saying how Lord Nityananda brings us to Lord Chaitanya. They bring us to Radha and Krishna.
Really? That's funny. That's applicable.
Uh,
I think that's good.
mm. And when you think about um, the issue, the stress, tendency to self-medicate, the thought that, this is overwhelming, and that feeling that you had in your chest and your throat, how activated does it feel to you now on a scale of 0 to 10?
Stressed, overwhelmed, medicated, activated, 1 to 10. Probably like a 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so less than half. Beautiful. And we didn't do a 0 to infinity check, but as you feel into that felt sense of Lord Nityananda's mercy in your chest and your throat, you feel into that. How strong is that felt sense of his mercy now? This is a 0 to infinity, and you can do it with fractions or percentages.
Infinity, the mercy connection of Lord Nityananda. That was
Yeah, and your felt sense of that mercy and that connection.
my felt sense. Then we never did that one before.
That's expansion brain spotting, which you've never done before.
That's 0 to infinity. Wow, that's a big number. It's getting there. It's in the 3/4 range, I would say.
Beautiful.
Quarter range.
What would you say it was at the beginning of the session?
I couldn't tell you.
Normally, I do a check in the beginning.
Less.
It was less, and now it's more beautiful. Yeah, good work. Good going. If you want, we can move on to the connecting cravings to consequences.
Sure.
Would you like?
Sure, that sounds good.
So, um, so it was found that people who struggle with addiction, different things, it was found that tends to be a disconnect in the brain between cravings and consequences. So this is a setup that reconnects that, the cravings and consequences. So with this, we find 2 spots, and then you gaze back and forth between those spots until you feel they're connected, and you just say it's connected.
Okay, cool.
So we'll start with a craving spot, craving for self-medicating, you mentioned.
Okay.
Does it? So go ahead and say whatever you'd like to say about the craving.
About
Any
the, say about
cravings you have? Just whatever you feel comfortable, whatever you want to mention about craving.
Um, I know I was going to say something, but I don't remember what it was. Well, cravings have consequences. I mean, well, cravings are from the stress, and then obviously then actions, whether it's even if it's just, you know, overeating or TV or zoning out or whatever, there's consequences.
Right now, we're not even talking about the consequences. This first spot represents the euphoric feeling of the recall of uh, whatever it is, whether it's, eating at night or whatever the self-medicating that if it's TV or uh, internet um, or for some people it's substances. So this is the recall of that good feeling. It's a dopamine surge. So the recall of that would be generating a sense of craving that feeling. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?
Um, no, I don't think so.
Uh-huh. Um, where do you feel craving in your body?
Mostly in my head.
Uh-huh. That makes sense. And when you look over here, does it feel stronger?
No, it feels less,
Less there. What about the middle?
about the same,
And over here?
and more on that side.
And is it more if it's higher or
It,
lower
it is more if it's higher, yeah.
off the screen?
That's good. Right there
Right
is
there?
good. Yeah, yeah.
And is it more if it's further out?
No, no, because I can't see it.
Uh, well,
Like
also
right,
you can go off screen if it's more a little more to the right,
yeah, like right there, like almost off screen. Yeah.
right there. Okay, go ahead and bookmark that so you know like where to gaze when you're at
Okay.
that spot. Because if you're going back and forth rapidly, it might not make sense for me to move the pointer.
Okay. So just use that spot for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and how strong is it 0 to 10 at this spot?
Probably a six.
Like a 6. Uh-huh. And so now that we've got that all bookmarked, let's talk about consequences. What are some of the consequences that you notice to to
Consequence.
to craving, to self-medicating, to
Self-medicated. Consequences have been in the past. Um, um,
so what consequences could be?
friends, loss of, or interruptions of relationships with friends and family, uh, health issues, financial issues, um, sleep is one of my biggest ones, personally, but the relationships is the more painful one. Yeah.
Mm,
And and loss of time.
mm, mm. And where do you notice that in your body?
In the stomach to the heart area.
Mm. And how strong does that feel to you now on a 0 to 10?
5, probably 4 to 5.
Let's find the consequences spot. Is it more over here?
So the cravings and the consequences spot. Those are the 2 spots.
Yeah, we already have the craving spot. So this is the consequences spot.
Um, Maybe a little bit lower and a little bit lower and maybe a little bit lower. And like about there, yeah.
And is it more sort of out further?
Yeah,
Or
like right about there, probably.
right there? Is that the spot?
That seems like it, yeah.
Do you want to start here and then just go back and forth, connecting this? Do you want to start with the craving spot?
Um,
Either spot you can start.
Either one. Consequences is good, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're just going back and forth between these 2 spots. I'll keep the wand here. You're just
Okay.
going back and forth between these 2 spots until you just know it's connected in your brain.
Okay. Shame is another consequence, obviously. Shame and guilt. Okay.
Oh, you can just go ahead and go to the other spot. Do you want me to go there to help her
I could
mind?
do that. No, no, I could do that. That actually makes sense.
You know where it is. Okay.
That makes sense. Feels pretty connected, yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you want to get what? Maybe just go back and forth a little rapidly for a bit. Just go back
Okay.
and forth, pendulating back and forth. Yeah. Is this the right spot over here?
You could go a little bit to yeah, right there. That's good. Okay.
All right. That's connected. And
It
then,
actually connected too. I've been working at it, obviously, but I've been working on myself. But like, it does quickly reconnect it, which is really cool. Yeah.
mm,
Or quickly, but it does. Yeah.
mhm. So I'm curious, what's helped for you? You've mentioned the internal family systems help with the shame.
Yeah.
What else has been helpful? Have you done any programs?
Yeah, I've been doing AA for a long time off and on.
Mm-hmm.
And I do I do I do I do my own kind of journaling, praying, my own kind of path, like that is in relation to like I do workbooks, I do um, journaling, like and writing um, about my life particularly, which is really helpful. I do like I still do the internal family system stuff. Um, I do like you know take a break and go like we would do the visuals of the beach or the waves kind of letting things go. So I kind of
Mm-hmm.
still do that, but I go for walks, or exercise, that kind of stuff. Writing is really powerful for me. Writing
Mm-hmm.
to clarify things in the past, clarify what I all the good that that I've been gifted and that I've also you know had I've made good decisions, and continuing what I want and continuing to be of value in people's lives, like a lot of writing. So when I do that regularly, it's helpful along with all the other work. That's kind of the more focal point, to stay
Mm-hmm.
focused on life and what I'm trying to accomplish, along with using the tools, I guess, is what I'm saying. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's just remembering stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, thank you, Nimai. Thank you for volunteering. And, these demos are such a benefit for other devotees. So I really appreciate, the qualities that you have that make you want to really, be of service and help others, help other devotees. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. I'll join
And,
too if I can, just to listen to.
oh, definitely. Definitely. You're welcome. And
Cool.
I'll, in the, in the in the meantime, I'm going to remove your pin and you can remove my pin and everyone can turn on after that, everyone can turn on their images. Let me know when you've removed my pin.
Okay. I don't think I ever pinned you, but I'm gonna.
So Pranada can do it. Our host can do it.
Okay. I wonder if there's a way to- I'm gonna turn off my camera.
All the pins should be off and you're spotlighted, Chandrika.
All right. So we're ready to go. So I can um, explain what we just did. Um, so and just talk about brain spotting, expansion brain spotting. So brain spotting, expansion brain spotting, as you just witnessed, it uses eye focusing to process trauma and reprogram the brain and nervous system responses to and tendency to generate things like anxiety, addiction, chronic pain, depression, PTSD, and other, common conditions that people struggle with. One of the principles is, as you witness, where you look affects how you feel. So and Lisa Larson more recently intuitively downloaded and developed the expansion brain spotting. So this adapts, as you also witness, this adapts well for those like devotees who seek more connection to the Guru Varga and our higher power. So aka Ishtadev, other resources to overcome the psychological stress and conditions like addiction, compulsive behaviors, avoidance tendencies. Um, so, uh, and the way you, I'll just go over kind of, what we just did. So first, make sure whoever you're working with has the bilateral sound. If that's not available, some people don't have any earbuds or headphones. I mean, if you're in person, you can supply. Um, uh, they can do bilateral tapping like Rasungi did. You know, Rasungi had a particular reason why the bilateral sound wasn't going to work. And so we did the alternate tapping on the thighs that she was able to do. So, um, so the bilateral stimulation, it seems to help the brain reprocess the stressful traumatic memories. So it's used in treatments for anxiety and trauma, you know, such as EMDR and brain spotting. It's used in both. There was a clinical study also on pain control techniques using the bilateral alternating tapping. So by using bilateral stimulation, such as the bilateral sound, distressing memories are processed effectively using both the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So it was described to me with the brain spotting training that it sucks trauma from the subcortical brain, which is where trauma is held. You know, the amygdala, the fight or flight, and the other parts of the inner brain, the midbrain. So you let the person know that you're working with that they will have both an activated spot and a resource spot if you're doing the double expansion brain spotting. And they will determine how long they gaze at each spot. In a demo I witnessed, the activated spot was so activated that the person could only tolerate 2 or 3 seconds at that spot and then went right back to the resource spot. Let the client know also, and I did with Nimai, that trauma may be accessed and processed with the safety of the expansion spot as well. Stuff may come up with, you know, a resource spot, an expansion spot. And I let people know it's a let whatever happens happen therapy. So there's no supposed to. So, you know, you can't get it wrong. And if the therapist, you know, forgets to say something or makes some mistakes, it's all self-correcting. So, and it's considered a dual attunement therapy. So there's the therapist-client attunement. You know, so, you know, ideally the therapist is gazing with compassion, understanding, acceptance. If anyone has a part who's judging anything, it's helpful to ask that part if the part's willing to give space, because that is a part if that's happening. And then there's the physiological attunement between the client's brain and body and the brain spot. So that you also witnessed. And, you know, with brain spotting, oftentimes less intervention is better than more. Like I probably did more today than I usually do because of, you know, the engagement of it being a training. I recently did one session where the client was silent the entire time. And eventually, you know, very eventually, when I asked, what are you noticing now? The client was actually observing her brain healing. So she was seeing a grid of her brain. She was seeing layers getting strengthened and healed during the course of the session. So, you know, I was glad I didn't interrupt that because of discomfort with silence or boredom or whatever else might come up. So, you know, powerful stuff is happening with these kinds of effective experiential therapies. So, so the first step, the bilateral sound. Best the sound itself is at least an hour so it doesn't cut off mid-session. And the person is invited to set the volume so that they can hear you easily and the sound is in the background. Step 2, discuss the issue the client would like or person you're helping would like support with. And ask, you know, ask about the thoughts, the emotions, And some people have difficulty accessing their emotions. So you can prompt, is there frustration or anger, fear or anxiety, or anything on that, those spectrums, sadness or grief, shame or guilt. If someone's numb is a common protection with trauma, particularly severe trauma. You can get curious about the numb sensation and process that. Um, with internal family systems, and we'll learn more later, common protector parts include numbing parts, dissociating parts, parts that take the person out of the trauma, blocking protectors. I've seen walls. And, when with protectors, when the activation is accessed, it's usually quite high. So, ask where in your body do you feel the issue or emotions. You can ask what the sensation is. You can invite them to notice the felt sense in their body. And then you get the, in brain spotting and EMDR, it's called SUDS, subjective unit of distress, like activation. What is the, with brain spotting, they use the word activation quite a lot. What is the activation or disturbance on a scale of 0 to 10? And then with the pointer, you kind of do a general check like you witnessed. Do you feel more activated, less activated, or the same over here, here, here? And then once you get the approximate location, then you can move on the vertical axis and then the horizontal axis to find the spot. Now, the spot is actually targeting the place in the brain where the particular trauma is held. So it's really helpful to be precise with the spot. And then, and then you invite the person to remember the spot, to bookmark it, and notice where the spot is. So both you and the person are noticing where the spot is, so that you can go back to it. Some people use put little stickers on their computers, or and then a lot of people are working in person, so that's different. I find brain spotting adapts well to both in person and online. I've done both. So with the expansion spot, now you've located the activated spot, shift to the expansion spot and identify the felt sense of the resource also. Maybe it's guru, the person's soul spot, their Ishtadev. In this case, it was Lord Nityananda. Could be person who loved them the most, which we experienced last class, who loves and accepts the person. So good to find a expansion resource spot that really is a resource. I worked with someone who didn't have a belief in God, and they processed the energy of love. And of course, working with devotees, there's certain beliefs that are a commonality. So and with devotees, there's a lot of expansion resources available, which is really great. You can also a positive outcome to what they're dealing with, like the connecting the cravings to the consequences can be followed by, positive outcome, a life without this issue, without this problem. And then the therapist will, mindfully and compassionately gaze at the person. So the relational attunement, while the person gazes at each spot, and they decide when to shift with their instinct or intuition between the spots. So occasionally a therapist may offer words or encouragement as needed, or ask, sort of, what are you noticing now? And then maybe, go with that. When I'm doing regular brain spotting, what are you noticing that now? Go with that. And if they're noticing an emotion that they are judging, I may prompt, what is it like to feel into that anger without judging it and see where that goes? So that can help someone let whatever happens happen. Um, there's been a lot of studies, as Rasengi knows well, demonstrating the effectiveness of EMDR. And they did some comparison studies between brain spotting and EMDR, and it was comparable. So they're both really effective. Personally, I have found brain spotting particularly effective. Um, like it's my go-to therapy if people have had a significant impactful trauma, like here on Maui, that big fire, not natural disasters, car accidents. Oh, my house burned down. Uh, um, and after the Sandy Hook massacre, there were, well over 20 different therapies, and they did a survey study, and brain spotting was the number one selected. People found it the one they liked the best and most effective for them. It was the favorite after that massacre. I had a personal experience where my husband and we snorkel regularly, and um, we made a mistake of snorkeling too soon after some rain. There was some runoff. Anyway, we there was this tiger shark, and the tiger shark was stalking us, which, I've seen them before and they just kind of swim on by. It's no big deal. But this one was actually stalking us, and it was kind of a younger one, maybe like 10 feet long. Anyway, it was circling this way and that way. And, I'm praying, Radha Nashringadev. In that moment, I'm just going, Radha Nashringadev, Radha Nashringadev, in my mind, just praying, because we've got the snorkel and the mask, and we're keeping our eye on the shark, which you're supposed to do. Um, and I'm kind of holding on to my husband's arm, and then I'm like, how's he going to fend off the shark if I'm holding onto his arm? So I let go and held onto his bathing suit on the side of it, on the elastic. Um, and the shark decided that maybe we did look like maybe we were, something to scavenge, and it charged us. And my husband went like this, and it worked, because then it went, oh, they're not dead. Like, you're supposed to just keep your eye on the shark and not thrash and not this and not that. But actually, you can go too far in the other direction. But anyway, so the next day, we're taught in my family you have to get back on the horse. So we went back to the same spot and snorkeled. And I had a full-blown startle response to a fish that swam at me from the side. It was about 8 inches long. And I said, okay, that does it. I'm a brain spotting therapist. I need to get some brain spotting. And 2 sessions completely cleared it up. And so I'm still able to, to love snorkeling and not hyper focus on, who might show up. So I know from personal experience just, how effective it can be. And also, I'll tend to go for brain spotting over internal family systems if someone has just really a lot of different things going on, because it gives them the freedom to, I love both therapies. What can I say? Which is why I'm teaching both therapies in this seminar. So in my notes, I have quite a bit of information on the brain, which I'm not going to go into great detail here, so we have time for some questions and answers. But so basically talk therapy, which is, it's still done a lot. That accesses the cerebral cortex, the planning, thinking, rational part of the brain. However, that is not where trauma is normally held in the brain, and it is also not, it's not where, where emotional regulation takes place. So I've actually worked with clients who've done talk therapy for 10 years, and they start to make progress with the work we're doing with the more experiential therapies that target the subcortical, the other parts of the brain, the parts that are involved in emotional regulation and are impacted by trauma. Um, uh, and that also includes the pituitary gland, which is, a master gland often attributed to higher consciousness. And they've linked a reduction in volume in the pituitary gland to PTSD. And then the limbic structures, the amygdala, PTSD, traumas, linked to an exaggerated amygdala response, fight or flight. So more extreme, anger, fighting responses. And also, trauma causes that, and also avoidance. So, addiction is one of the avoidance things that can happen. There are many. So, if someone's had a lot of trauma, also, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, it's so powerful. It can, bring up stuff like Prabhupada said, it brings stuff up to the surface to be cleared, like good trauma work does, and that can be very uncomfortable. So it can go together, that clearing the trauma can help bring ease to chanting Hare Krishna, more ease. Let's see, I'm just looking through all this brain stuff, but so with trauma, the subcortical brain also tends to go into a freeze response to conserve resources for the body to go into defense mode. So brain spotting these effective therapies, EMDR, can help unfreeze many, vital aspects of brain function. So it can be really helpful. And they now know, with the discovery of brain plasticity, that effective trauma treatment can heal a brain impacted by psychological trauma, and loss, and repeated negative life experiences, all the impacts of those things. I recently did a session with a fire survivor who, had lost so many people, both in the fire and since the fire, including suicide. And so, with brain spotting, we were able to access the part who wants to live with the expansion brain spotting. For this person, the expansion resource was the love of Jesus. And so the part who wants to live with that spot, that part just spoke up and spoke through her and said, I want to live. And by the end of the session, that part said, I 100% want to live. So it can be really helpful for a lot of different situations. And I think we have time. Let's see. We have time for questions and answers. And also, if anyone has done any practicing, if there's anything that you want to tell, Pranada.
Very well, Chandrika.
All right, all.
Thank you for that. Did Nimai do brain spotting with you? Did he do therapy with you? Is that how you know him?
Years ago.
Oh, I can't ask that actually. Sorry. Did he do
Oh, no,
brain
he
spotting? Okay.
mentioned it, but it was years ago. Like with with the dual relationship that we're supposed to avoid as therapists. 2 years is kind of the, like if someone wants to have some other, maybe they want to, be a Facebook friend or whatever, you can either do it never, but but if it's been 2 years since therapy, then it's considered, you know,
And did he do
acceptable.
brain spotting work before?
Um, my recollection, it was very internal family systems.
Okay.
So
And can
today was the
you,
first time that he'd ever experienced the expansion brain spotting and the connecting cravings to consequences.
okay, so
So
it'll be interesting what the results are. Would you report back if he has any comments about that, after the session to us? About how
sure.
the connecting worked for him?
Hmm. Yeah,
Can you
I mean,
do,
everything with him has gotten so much better than it was before, he ever got therapy for it. So, and I would expect that this would be the key that would just really clear it up. That would be my expectation.
the brain spotting?
And particularly the expansion brain spotting.
When you
With
say
devotees, you
expansion
so
brain
often,
spot, are you talking about the resource of the trigger that's called expansion, the dual?
well, the expansion spot in this case was Lord Nityananda's mercy.
But that's called
So,
a resource spot. Why I'm confused, resource and expansion.
um, uh, with the expansion, and the scaling is the 0 to infinity, and the way it's done is called expansion brain spotting.
Okay, because in his book, he just talks about it as a resource spot and he talks about doing both. He doesn't say expansion. Okay.
Mhm.
Can you do brain spotting with parts?
Um, Actually, David Grand has the training for brain spotting parts. I've spontaneously done brain spotting with parts, definitely.
Thank you.
Like that, the part who wants to live.
Okay. Mhm. Surit, do you have a question?
Well, actually, my question was also to clarify what's the spotting versus the expansion brain spotting. And I wasn't sure if the expansion is mean when you have the dual points, or do you do brain spotting with just the points of activation, or it's always has to be when you're talking brain spotting, it always has to be the activation point and the resource point.
Um, it doesn't always have to be that at all. Like for some people, it's just a single point of activation or of resource, depending on, you know, where they're at and, the instinct of the therapist. So yeah, the person doing the session.
So even if you have the resource part, as from what I understand, you were telling Pranada, even if you have both points, the activation and the resource is still considered brain spotting. But when you do the check-in for in infinity and like that, that's considered the expansion.
Um, well, I mean, Lisa's a Lisa's a brain spotting trainer and she works with David Grand. She developed the expansion brain spotting and a lot of use of a spiritual resource. So um, you know, so that aspect of using using a deity, using a divinity, using a source of unconditional love. Um, I might not know exactly what David developed and what Lisa developed. Yeah, I know that Lisa gave me written permission to teach expansion brain spotting. So that's going to be the major focus of the seminar.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you.
And you're welcome. Rasangi?
Haribo, Haribo.
Haribol.
Bless the Lord Nityananda.
Chai.
Perfect timing for that. Um, I have a couple of questions. What are the books you're recommending that we read? Is there one or two books that you would recommend?
Well, I mentioned Brain Spotting by David Green.
Okay, that's the one you want us to read. David Grant.
David Grand. Yeah, he developed the brain spotting.
Okay.
And
then
he developed it spontaneously. Like he was doing he was an EMDR trainer, one of their top trainers. And so he was doing it back and forth with a competitive figure skater who kept falling on a certain jump, I don't know, it was a triple or a quadruple something. And she'd fall at the same point every time. And one time, and he was doing EMDR manually. So I guess with his finger, and he just had an instinct to hold a spot, a particular spot. And she went into, full processing, and she never fell again at that spot. Like it was totally cleared up the issue, just that one spot. And so that was the beginning for him of developing brain spotting.
And then the expansion, is there a book on that you recommend? Lisa? Book?
There's not. I'm definitely, uh, teaching it and sending out frames that she's
Good.
made available.
That's
So,
perfect. I'd rather
yeah.
not read everything, and we're going to learn it anyway. So
You get to learn it anyway.
I have another question. When you were doing the connect the consequences, now you held this pointer in one spot. And what was he doing? Because there was some bilateral stimulation going on there, right between the spots, but I didn't see.
Well, with brain spotting, the bilateral stimulation is just going. For him, the bilateral sound was just going. So I don't even have to think about it when doing a brain spotting session. The uh, with connecting cravings to consequences, often it's quite fast. And rather than keep fiddling with the pointer, but he had bookmarked where we located it with the pointer. He had bookmarked it. He knew where it was. So he was going back and forth with his eyes between the craving spot and the consequences spot.
I didn't see his eyes, but then again, he had the bilateral through the ears. So he didn't have to do the eye, right?
Um, the eye brain spots is what was doing the connecting between the craving spot and the consequences spot. The spots themselves are static. The person gazes at them, but the back and forth, and also people do the back and forth when they're doing the expansion. They have the activated spot and the expansion spot, so they're going back and forth between the spots. But it's different than EMDR in the sense that their eyes are not continually moving back and forth.
So how does that work? It's just, they're in their heads going back and forth from that spot to this spot. Is that right?
Their eyes are going back and forth. They're actually gazing at the different spots. Yeah.
But the eyes aren't going back and forth as you see it outside.
Not continuously, no.
Fascinating. And I just want to say, I mean, there's a lot to learn, but I love my resource spot. I still have it, and I turn to it a lot. It's my go-to, and I like it. And I've definitely felt some shifts. Just to give a report for Pranada's question too, how do these results, do they last a while? So I have found a shift, a softening. Oh, you were all here toward my mother, that she wasn't just this witch who had it in for me, that she was loving and did the best she could. And I can actually really kind of forgive her. It was pretty far out because I've held on to those resentments she's 98 and I still have the fear of God in me when we get together, although she's so loving now. But from childhood, I had so much trepidation and fear around her. So it was very wonderful. And I feel a little more confident and less timid. A little more confident to be who I am. Not as much like like self-talk or fear. So pretty cool.
I am so glad. I
Well,
am so glad that was helpful for you.
yeah, helpful.
Um,
Everybody sign up for one. Don't miss out.
In
Okay.
the training, there was someone who, and she sang for us in the training, and my God, could she sing? But she would feel fearful singing in front of people, and so she had an expansion spot, and the trainer said, when you're singing, look at the audience and look at the spot, you know. So um, I have a feeling that her singing is going to take off, and for devotees who are afraid to lead kirtans, having an expansion spot could be really helpful too.
So cool.
I'm one of
You could,
them.
you could
I am
advertise
I am not going to sing lead kirtan. I'm going to sing along. Isabella?
Hi, yes, thank you so much for the demo and explanation today. I had a question about, sort of in cases where it's more like complex trauma, where it's not like a specific event or a specific like single emotion, like there's a lot more in it. Um, how would you engage in that processing? Like, would you kind of go one by one through significant events or significant, would you kind of go one by one through it, or how would you approach that?
It depends. Like with that incident with the shark, it was definitely, focusing on the incident. And quite often it's that. Um, but also with complex trauma, it's a lot of, what's bothering you the most now, like, how was your week? And out of that, there's a target, or we're maybe continuing something from the previous session that wasn't fully processed. But a lot of times I'm like, we'd like to focus on that. And the person's like, no, there's this other thing. That's more of you know, more of an issue. So does that answer your question? It's a good question.
Thank you.
It's very helpful with complex trauma. And for people who don't know what that means, it's like when there's multiple different kinds of traumas at different points in life. Quite often, there's childhood developmental trauma, things that happen when people are in childhood and developing. So it can be quite complex. It just tends to take longer. Like for example, with the fires, there was someone who, one session cleared it up and they were just, fine to go back to work and go on with life. And there was someone else who had complex trauma, and, you know, and that'll be probably months or maybe even a couple of years to, completely clear that up. But to get the person back to functioning won't take years, because these therapies are rapid and effective. Let's put it that way. And anybody else? Anyone have any comments or response? And just anything. Do we still have 3 more minutes?
Yeah, I just want to send a message to Nimai, thank him so much for that. That was amazing to watch, even though he resolved the issue quite quickly on the activation point. But that was very generous of him to be vulnerable and come to a group that he doesn't know. So I'd like to personally extend that to him if you could pass that on.
I will, for sure, and I'm sure that will be very appreciated. And Catherine.
I'm having trouble spotlighting her. Catherine, just start speaking. I don't have an
Okay.
option I don't have an option to spotlight you. Are you on a,
Yeah, I've got a dialog box that says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it. So I don't understand.
okay, let
But,
me see if I can fix that. Okay, try now.
okay.
There you go. Okay.
Okay. When, I was curious when you were asking, because I just couldn't understand, I'm a little, I'm trying to like just understand how this works. It's really interesting. Um, I'm just wondering, like, when you ask where you feel, whatever it is, the different feelings, and even Nityananda's mercy, I'm wondering, does that correspond? Like, does the brain make it correspond to a part of the body? I'm just trying to figure out how that works.
Yeah, it targets the subcortical brain. It targets so different spots will, you know, uh, target the hippocampus, the amygdala, the various parts of the brain that are involved in trauma. It'll target it for that particular um, expansion brain spotting spots, definitely less studied. I would love to see a study of expansion brain spotting because I have a feeling that it will outperform the other therapies. It's based on my experience. I'm like, this is really amazing. They've done studies about people in hospitals who have, diseases, and they've done double-blind studies where, some of them are being prayed for and some aren't. And the doctors and nurses could, after not much time, they could tell who was being prayed for, even though it was double-blind, they didn't know. So similarly, expansion brain spotting by bringing in, God's soul, these spiritual resources as spots, in my experience, so far, which hasn't been a long time, but I'd love to see a study on that.
Okay, thank you.
And that's our time. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And this really means a lot to me. And I really appreciate the time that you're taking and all you're putting into this. And, just it's kind of like with my clients, showing up is what makes it work. So I will see you next week.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Bye.